everyone, it's me, B, Atticali Sunflower. So I'm on today to start a hashtag, and that hashtag is called My Lenormand Collection. I was inspired to start this hashtag by the lovely Giselle. Her channel is called Mad Witch. So Giselle done a video. The video was about her Lenormand journey and how she wanted to start Lenormand, and she was showcasing some of the decks that she had and some of the books that she had downloaded onto her Kindle. And that video was prompted by another YouTuber called Masha, and her tarot channel is called Musings by Masha. So I will add both of those videos in the description bar for your perusal. Sorry if I'm looking down, but I've got the questions in front of me. So question 1, how did your Lenormand journey begin? So my Lenormand journey began in the late 1980s stroke early 1990s. So I used to be part of this kind of like secret tarot community. We used to meet up in people's houses, do tarot and talk about divination. This was long before the meetups and the internet. That's how we used to kind of meet up. And I remember that I asked a particular member of this group for a reading, and she pulled out like a bridge size Lenormand deck, and I was mesmerized because around that time you didn't see, well, I didn't see any pocket size divination cards apart from playing cards. I like the fact that the archetypes were relatable, that the archetypes were like everyday things, like a dog, a fox, a man, a woman, a child. I found that fascinating. And I also like the idea of cards being very predictive, because the reading that she gave me was really spot on. And I'd never seen the Divination system that had 36 cards at the time and gave such precise readings. Question 2, what attracted you to the Lenormand system? So for me, as I said earlier, it was the size of the cards, because they were, I found that to be quite portable. It was that the archetypes were relatable. At the time I was only doing the Rider-Waite-Smith tarot cards, and they were kind of like a bit old-fashioned, but the Lenormand cards were kind of like of everyday things. I also liked the affordability of it, because Lenormand cards to me are a lot cheaper than tarot decks, even though some of the indie decks now are becoming like the price of tarot. I also like the fact that there was less cards to learn, so 36 cards, no reversals, so that was a lot easier for me. I found them to be quite dyslexic friendly because the archetypes are like staple things in everyone's life. And I also like the fact that there was playing card associations on the Lenormand cards. I do read playing cards, but I've later on learnt that the playing card associations on the Lenormand cards are quite different to playing card meanings. But I do tend to use the playing card associations on the Lenormand cards to read that card if it comes out reversed, because there's no reversals in Lenormand. So these are the sort of things that attracted me to the Lenormand deck. So question 3, what do you not find attractive about the Lenormand system or Lenormand decks? And for me, it's the oracle sized cards. So don't get me wrong, they have lovely art and the art is more clearer, but in terms of reading, if you've got limited space like I do, the larger card is kind of limited in the sort of spreads that I can do. So for example, I can only do maybe a 3 or 6 card spread reading in the space that I have with the larger oracle decks. And also a lot of the oracle decks that I have in my collection, they seem to match a tarot deck. I also found that there's not a lot of beginner friendly guidebooks to Lenormand. I mean, there are some now that have come out recently. There's a lot more tarot books available than Lenormand books, and it would be nice if you could have like the Dictionary of Lenormand or the Encyclopedia of Lenormand, like you do with the tarot decks. And the final thing is that the price is kind of creeping up. In some Lenormand decks, especially some of the indie decks, they're like the same price as a tarot deck. And my argument is, tarot decks are 78 cards and Lenormand is 36 cards, and the majority of Lenormand decks are also the size of a playing card, so I do find that the pricing can be quite an off-putting aspect for me. So question 4, what are your future plans with Lenormand? So my future plans with the Lenormand system is to study it more, because I haven't really ever studied the history of the Lenormand. I went into buying Lenormand decks and studying the meaning rather than the historical kind of background. Also as well, a lot of Lenormands have like playing card inserts. I mean, some of the modern ones don't, yeah, but a lot do. And I find that the playing card inserts tend to have different meanings to the playing card meaning. So I'd like to kind of like study that. I have been looking for books on Lenormand playing card inserts and I haven't been able to find one. So if anyone does know about books that talk about Lenormand playing card inserts, that would be really great. I know that the cute little Lenormand deck, which I'm going to show a bit later on in this video, does have a chapter on playing card inserts, but that's the only book to my knowledge that talks about Lenormand playing card inserts. Question 5 is your first Lenormand deck. So my first Lenormand deck was this deck here, but it wasn't actually this copy. The one that I had was a different edition, and it had like, I think it was like a coppery kind of box. So let me just show you some of the cards. So these are the backs of the cards. This edition is not as good as the original one that I had, but what I like about this particular deck is that the cards are very clear. Can you see, like, that's a moon? It's just a moon and nothing else. The anchor is just an anchor and no fuss around it. The ship, plain ship. Bird, even though I do like my birds to be in pairs because, you know, they're to do with gossip and chatter, but this is fine. The book and the coffin. And I guess that because this was my first Lenormand deck and it was plain, that could be the reason why I like plain decks with no fuss. I just find them easier to read when they're laid out in a spread. Question 6 is the last Lenormand deck that I purchased. The last Lenormand deck that I purchased is this one. It comes in a nice kind of blue bag. It's called the Miracle Lenormand deck. I will leave a link. And I tend to pair this one up with my Beautiful Creatures tarot deck. These are the backs of the cards. I love this deck. Even though this deck may appear fussy, it's got the archetypes, and then in each picture it's got like a Blythe doll or Blythe looking big-eyed doll. So this is the rider, it's like a doll on a horse. The stork, you know, the dolls with the stork. And because I love playing with dolls, this deck kind of combines my love of dolls and divination. It's really nice. Look at that gorgeous sun card. The scythe. Question 7. What Lenormand decks are you waiting to receive? So I'm waiting to receive 2 Lenormand decks this year. Hopefully they come. So the first one is called Erica's Lenormand of Hope by Erica Robinson. That's the Kickstarter deck. So I'm just waiting for that to be sent to me. Erica's been really good at updating us on Kickstarter. She also kind of wrote this book, and the deck that is showcased in this book is the Erica Lenormand of Hope, which is the deck that I'm waiting for. Another deck that I've got on pre-order is called This Might Hurt Lenormand. I think it's going to be published by Liminal 11. So I have the tarot deck and I love it. I've got both the indie deck and the mass market deck. And so because I like that art style, and I'm assuming that the Lenormand deck will be that same sort of art style, I've pre-ordered that deck and I'm looking forward to receiving that deck when it gets released. So the final question is, show me your Lenormand decks. I've got quite a lot of Lenormand decks to show you. I think I've got about 30 or almost 30. So I'm going to try and break it up into, you know, little sections like beginner decks, Lenormand Oracle decks, and, you know, blah, 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 blah. So I'm going to switch my camera around and show you my Lenormand decks. Hi everyone. So I've turned the camera around. I think I'm going to have to do this video into smaller parts because I did try and record all of my Lenormand decks, and the video was about 1.5 hours long. So what I'm going to do for this first video, I'm going to showcase the 4 Lenormand books that I have and the beginner decks, or decks that I feel are beginner friendly, and then I'll do another part 2 of maybe my Lenormand decks that have matching tarot decks, and then the third video with the rest of my Lenormand collection. So I'm sorry about that. In terms of books, I only have 4 Lenormand guidebooks that are standalone in my collection. The first one that I want to show you is this one. It's called The Language of Lenormand, and it's a practical guide for everyday divination by Erica Robinson and Carrie Paris. So I haven't actually used this book as yet per se, but the videos that I have seen on this book have been very kind of impressive. I actually bought this book to accompany the Lenormand that goes with it. So I think it's called The Lenormand of Hope, if I'm correct. If I'm not correct, I'll put the correct title above. But Erica has done a Kickstarter campaign of the Lenormand that this book is around. So I bought this book to go with that deck. They should be sent out soon because we got an email from Erica the other day stating that they were going to be posted soon. So a forwarding by Carrie Paris, you get acknowledgements and introduction, and each chapter involves 3 Lenormand cards. So if I go to the first chapter, it talks about the rider, the clover, and the ship, and it gives you a black and white picture of the card, and then it gives you some keywords. So news, message, intimate, incoming information, and then it gives you a blurb. So let me just quickly read you out what she's written about the rider. Usually portrayed as a person on a horseback carrying something in their hand, the most important thing to notice about the rider, and it's got in brackets card 1, is neither the person nor the horse, but rather what they come to convey. As I have mentioned before, Lenormand cards are not meant to be read individually, but rather to be paired together with their sisters. Therefore, we can see the rider 1. We must not succumb to, although human instinct, to immediately ascribe a value to the message the rider 1 carries. The card itself tells us nothing about whether the message carries news that is good or bad, or something in between. Sometimes, actually, more often in Lenormand, a card is just a card until its sisters tell us more. So for now, let this just be a horse with someone on its back who carries some news for us in their hand. I think that's such a good description because I tend to read my Lenormand cards in 3s, 6 or 9s, and I've never read a Lenormand card individually. So I think it's good that Erica's stating this, that, you know, that you don't just take this card literally, you read it in a sentence with the other cards. I like how she uses the word sisters. The layout for each of the 36 Lenormand cards. I just want to see Lily, because the Lily cards, there's 2. There's like the red lily and white lily. I think they've got different meanings because one means sex. Oh, she's put all the meanings together. Okay. After each chapter, there's also like an exercise for you to do, which is good. Then, you know, Erica goes into the grand tableau and gives you some details about how to read the grand tableau. And then there's some questions there so you can test yourself afterwards to see if you've understood. I like this spread here, the 9-card spread. This is a spread that I tend to use if I'm doing a Lenormand reading. Chaining and counting. So this is my first guidebook. So the next Lenormand book is the complete Lenormand Oracle Handbook by Caitlin Matthews. This was my first Lenormand guidebook that I bought. I think it's quite good for a beginner. It's got a nice content page. It talks about learning the craft of Lenormand, and then it goes into learning the language of Lenormand, Lenormand lexicon, creating sentences with pairs and triplets, storyboard, taking the portrait, and then part 2 is the playing card inserts, which I like because I use the playing card inserts to, if my cards come out reversed, because there's no reverse meanings for Lenormand. So, Waking the Pips, The Art of Cartomancy, The Secret of the Lenormand Universe. And then it's got The Art of the Grand Tableau and Lenormand Practice, and then Becoming a Storyteller. So to me, this is a really informative book. It showcases different Lenormand cards. Okay, so let me give you an example. So card 11, which is called the Rod. I call this the Whip though. And it's got the Jack of Clubs. It says here, arguments, aplenty, squabble and debate, sifting and sorting each one from the other. The rod beat strong, sweeping away the dust. Told off, reproved, coerced, made to relate. And it tells you what deck the card came from. And then general meaning. Rod, sometimes also called whip, has a wide variety of meanings that can be confusing at first. It can be destructive and argumentative, like a lawyer or a student providing his or her thesis, but it can also indicate slanderous statements, vilification and verbal abuse, as well as discussions, conversations or debates. Some meanings arise from the fact that historically the birch, as it was known in Britain, was used to discipline children and criminals. Rod is repetitive. It describes sexual activity, exercise, discipline, violence, aggression or abuse. Rod has the effect of repeating whatever it describes. So ship plus rod would be repeated trips abroad, or letter plus rod could be spam or mailing list that keeps appearing. The searching nature of rod also applies to research, investigations or scrutiny. So book and rod could talk about going through the books or even referring to proofreader. Compare the sexual meaning of the lily, which can be sex between married couples, with rod, which is definitely more athletic or repeated sexual activity outside marriage. Rod and woman, active woman, make a complementary pair with cipher man, resolute man. Rod is the pen, while book is the page. Effect, challenging, nouns, dispute, argument, research, sexuality, a physical workout, discipline, violence, assault, aggression, conversation, questions, coercion, rhetoric. There's more, but I won't read all of it. But that's how this book is laid out, and I think it's very well written. It also goes into the spreads and gives you a few spreads. That's the Grand Tableau, and it showcases quite a lot of decks. I must admit, I bought quite a few Lenormand decks while reading this book. So this is a good Lenormand book that I would recommend for a beginner. It's got about 403 pages. Let's have a look at the author. So Caitlin Matthews is the author of over 60 books. She is the originator of 4 tarots: the Arthurian Tarot, the Da Vinci Enigma Tarot, the Celtic Wisdom Tarot, and the Steampunk Tarot. Gods of the Machine, co-written with John Matthews. In addition, Caitlin has created a number of divination systems, including the Enchanted Lenormand Oracle, the Celtic Book of the Dead, the Celtic Wisdom Oracle. Caitlin has made a special study of ancient and historic cartomancy for this book. She speaks at international conferences on divination and tarot and teaches worldwide. She is a co-founder of the Foundation for Inspirational Oracular Studies, which is dedicated to the sacred and oral arts. Caitlin lives in Oxford, UK. For details about her books and courses and events, it tells you to go to the website, and then it gives you some like her blog address. So I would highly recommend this book for a Lenormand virgin, or just anyone in general that wants to learn about Lenormand. It's a really good book, in my opinion. So the next book is called Lozzy's Lenormand Love and Relationships Readings. It's the second edition, and this is by somebody called Lozzy Phillips. So the majority of readings that I tend to have do tend to be about love. So this is why I bought this Lenormand deck. Lenormand book. It's really good. It's not a kind of like detailed book. When it comes to my reference books for divination or hobbies, I don't like them to be too referenced, because as part of my job, I read a lot of books, and so I don't want to do the same thing for things that I find pleasurable. So this book here is about 200 pages, I would say. Let's just see. 204 pages. So let me just read you the introduction about this book first of all. Learning to read the Lenormand cards in different contexts is a key element of Lenormand reading, whether you are reading just for yourself or others. And one of the most popular uses of the Lenormand cards today, as much as it was historically, is to try to predict your love life. Expanding extensively from the original edition back in 2019, the aim of this book is to help focus on the Lenormand cards in just love and relationship contexts, and to give you plenty of examples and practice in using the cards in this way, as well as to highlight some of the issues and pitfalls common in love readings, which after all involve some of our deepest human vulnerabilities, hopes and wishes. As such, this new edition of the book is divided into several sections. So what I like about this book is it gives you like a general recap. So clover, luck, opportunities, chance. So for each of the 36 cards, it just gives you like a couple of keywords for each card. Then it talks about love and relationship readings. And then it gives you like meanings of people relating to the cards. So the rider would be an exciting new lover, a prince charming, in with the new year. The clover, lucky, opportunistic, chancer. You know, this gives you the characters of the people. And then it gives you love and relationships. So for example, Klaus is somebody that's uncertain or unclear, you know, and stuff like that. Then it gives you card meanings for common love relationships. So it talks about the heart, the ring and the moon, and gives you examples of those. Or it actually gives you examples for all of the cards. But what I like about this book is that how at the end of this book, that it gives you questions, like practice questions, and then the meanings as well, the answers. So that's what I like about this book, so you can test yourself. And then it gives you love combinations for each of the Lenormand cards. So I think this is quite a good, useful guidebook to have on Lenormand. So another guidebook that I recommend, and my final guidebook, is another book by Lozzy, and it's called Lenormand Card Combinations and Exercises. This one is not so long as the love reading book. I think it's just over 100 and, let me see, it's 109 pages. So it's a bit shorter than the other one. And it talks about Lenormand card combinations, quick reference card meanings, card combinations, and it goes through each of the Lenormand cards. Gives you card meanings and combined exercises, gives you the answer and a bit about the author and other books written by the author. And I like books that test you afterwards, because there's no good reading something if you're going to forget it the next day. But I think if you do exercises about it, it kind of sinks into your long-term memory. For each card, that's like, say, for example, the clover, it gives you what it means with the rider, what it means with the ship, what it means with the horse. It combines, it gives you 2 card combinations for each card, which I find quite helpful. And then it gives you it gives you exercises, and it gives you the answer to the exercises as well. Let's read about the author. So Lozzy Phillips is a freelance card reader, writer and author from the UK who spent many years working in both teaching and corporate publishing before striking out on her own. She has lived and travelled all over the world, notably South America and both Central and Western Europe, but now settled back in her home country. She loves reading, cooking, writing fiction, current affairs, earth witchery in all its forms. And then other books that she's written, The Complete Guide to Lenormand, which I might get. It's like career readings and love and relationships. So I might get her other 2 books because I think she's a really good writer. The first 2 decks are study decks, and they were devised by some tarot tubers. So the first one is called Study Lenormand. This was devised by the lovely Masha from Masha and Musings. I saw her do this on her channel and I asked her where she got it from, and she actually made me this deck and gifted it to me for Christmas a few years ago. She's based it around the 52 playing card system because obviously Lenormand cards have playing card inserts. So obviously she only needed to use 36 cards. So she gave me some spare cards. These are the backs of the cards, which are beautiful. They remind me of the Cath Kidston kind of material, you know, like that kitschy floral. My daughter calls it old lady material, but I love Cath Kidston. So there's some title cards that she gave me. This is a doll that I knitted because I knit dolls. I play with dolls too. This is like a emoji with a cat. This is Pamela Coleman Smith. This is Leo. Some playing cards, like it's another kind of title card. This is Masha and her dog Choppy. These are my granddaughters. I've got twin granddaughters called Honey and Venus. That's me. That's Honey and Venus again. Pamela Coleman Smith. And this is some of my nail art and other dolls that I have knitted. This deck to me is a study deck, and it's more to me of a card journal. It's personal to me. So things that I've written in red are my own personal timings. And then the keywords that I think the fox means. So the child. I've just personalised this to how I think the cards are. You know, it's just my own personal meanings. Everyone's gonna put this in differently. This is good as a study deck. I've also got a clean deck. I think Masha sent me 2. I think maybe one of them had some card shortage, so she sent me another one. The clean deck I kind of read as a Lenormand deck, but this one is just good to make notes and to reflect on, because you know, over the years my meanings have changed for Lenormand. You know, it's all about the growth. So the next deck that I would recommend for a beginner is the Bitmoji Tarot. I think Jamie Sayer did the template. Julie from the Pickable Rose channel, she selected all my Bitmojis and made up this deck for me. It's a nice square little deck. It's got playing cards inserts. So you can see this is a bear. This is the mice. To me, it's just an easy reader. The ring. I mean, it's not that fussy because if you take out my Bitmoji, it's quite a plain reader. But I think this deck will be good for a beginner because obviously the person that gets this deck is going to personalise it to themselves. And I think that decks that look like people are always easier to relate to and easier to read. So these are my Bitmoji kind of decks that I would recommend for a beginner. The next decks that I think are really good for beginners are the cute little Lenormand deck. So it came out indie first of all. So this is the indie guidebook and the indie deck. But then it was picked up mass market. And the guidebook is really, really, really informative. I have done a flip through of this deck. And I will link it into the description bar if anybody wants to watch it. I prefer the mass market book. But I prefer the indie cards. Even though there's not much difference in the cards. I'm just going to show you the difference in size for the cards. So the mass market deck's slightly bigger and more saturated than the indie deck. Plus as well the guidebooks. The indie guidebook is in black and white and it's only 127 pages. whereas the mass market deck is in colour. It's very extensive and it's 199 pages. You get a bit more in the mass market. Plus as well, again, this book is clearly written out and it gives you exercises to do, which I think is good if you're learning something to actually be tested on it. With regards to the people cards, in the mass market edition, card 28, which is traditionally the gentleman, it gave you options. So you could use the gentleman card, you could use the lady, you could use the querent, and card 29, which is the lady card traditionally, you could use the lady, you could use the lover, and you could use the gentleman. So I like the idea of that in the indie version deck. But then in the mass market, they've done the querent for the male and the partner for the female. And they haven't given you the choices to use male or female or man or woman. Some people do like to be defined by their gender, others don't. But I think that the choice should have been in the mass market deck like it was in the indie deck, so people can select the cards to how they define their gender. I think that people should be able to call themselves a man or woman if that's how they feel, you know, and vice versa, querent or partner. So that's the only qualm that I don't like about the mass market deck. But apart from that, this is a really beautiful deck and I think it's very beginner friendly. The cards are very, very plain. It's got playing card associations. The archetypes are numbered and named, because in some cards they don't put the number or the name of the archetype, they just put the archetype in the picture. So, and I think if you're learning, I think it's important for you to know the position and the name of the archetype, even though the archetype, in my opinion, should be self-explanatory. You know, you can see that's a tower, you can see that's a house, but I think it's still important to put that there for beginners. So another beginner Lenormand deck, in my opinion, is the Fairy Tale Fortune cards. It comes in this box, but I've separated them. I've put my cards into a bag. I think the guidebook is really, really informative. This is Lenormand inspired, so it's basically an oracle deck, but really it's Lenormand cards. It's 36 cards, and they're like the Lenormand. Guidebook, as I said before, is very informative. It gives you the 36 cards and their short meanings, and then it gives you the page to the longer meanings, should you want to look at the longer meanings. It tells you how to lay out the cards. It gives you an example, past, present and future card. It gives you a week ahead spread. It gives you the year ahead spread. And it tells you how to read cards using a significator, and then gives you an example spread on that. It tells you how to do yes, no meaning reading. So it looks like most of the cards are positive. So they are really Lenormand. The coffin signals endings, loss and change. The flower, which is the bouquet in the Lenormand deck, are a gift of happiness to come. The mounting, a challenge or enemy to face. The mouse, what is eating away at you. The only thing is that these archetypes are not numbered, but then this is more of an oracle deck. But I still think it's a very beginner friendly kind of Lenormand deck, and I think the book is spot on, in my opinion, for a Lenormand Virgin. The next deck that I think is quite beginner friendly, is called the Green Glitz Lenormand. This includes 40 cards and an 80-page guidebook. This is the first edition. I bought this from Shane. His Tarot Tube channel is called Read the Wonder. I haven't seen him for quite a while, so I don't know whether he's still active on Tarot Tube. But he bought this deck from Kickstarter and it didn't resonate with him. So I bought it off him for a really reasonable price. So what I like about this deck is that it's plain, it's not cluttered. The archetype is named and numbered, and it's got the playing card association. So if this is laid out on a grand tableau, you can see what the archetype is. It's not cluttered, it hasn't got more than one thing on there. So you can see this is a book, you can see these are stars, and so on and so forth. The only thing that might be off-putting maybe is the colour palette. I mean, I don't mind it, I like the colour palette, but some people have got like aversions to things that are not colourful, you know, so things like sepia and black and white, some people find them quite challenging to read with, but I actually like it. The cards are also kind of like got a nice buttery feel. They're absolutely gorgeous. I don't know the differences between this version and the second version, but I'm quite happy with this version, so I haven't really explored that option. But as I said before, this is a very beginner friendly deck in my opinion. So let's have a look at the guidebook. So the guidebook is 80 pages. It gives you the number, the name of the archetype, some keywords. Got here: delay, obstacle, impediment, struggle, explorer, overcome, hurdle. And then it gives you some example pairings. So mice and mounting, obstacles, diminished. Mountain and fish, money, struggle. Mountain and stork, challenging, transition. Mountain and ship, delayed trip, seeking challenges. Mountain and lily, obstacles to peace. So this is my green lymph Lenormand deck, first edition. Another beginner friendly deck in my opinion is called the Did Your Lenormand. So I bought the mini one, which is black and white, or sepia I should say, quite a while ago from Etsy. It was really cheap. It was something like £15. I bought these because they're portable and they're really clear, and you know, it's got the playing card insert there, so you can tell that's a snake. You can tell that this is a stork. You can tell that this is a bear. You know, even though the archetypes are not named, the cards are. And when they're this size, you know, if you've got like a small space like I have for reading, you can place your 36 cards quite easily in a small place, you know, in a grand tableau. That's why I think they're beginner friendly. And also they're very portable, so you can carry this around with you on the go if you're studying. I think they're really beautiful. So when I found out that the creator, because I used to follow her on Instagram, was doing a Kickstarter, I jumped on it. So the Kickstarter edition came in numerous languages. I chose the English one. The cards are described as the third edition. It came with a guidebook and a reading mat and a thank you card. These are bridge size, I think. You also get multi-language little mini guidebooks as well in here. So the creator really went out. These cards have got colour in there. They're not black and white. They've got splashes of pastel colour. But again, they're very, very clear. I like this author's artwork. It's got something peaceful about it. I'm not really into pastel colours, but this is beautiful. And I think because it's so clear and it's not complicated. On this version, the actual archetypes are named as well. I think a beginner would find this deck quite pleasing. The next Lenormand deck is new to my collection. I got this on Kickstarter. It's called the Lenormand. So I think this deck is available on Etsy, and I think it's about £40, which I think it is. But that's a bit extortionate considering the size of the cards. It's a clear reader. It's got really lovely keywords, which I think describe the meaning of the card. So, for example, heart, love, affection, relationships, emotions, the moon, intuition, emotions, cycles, fantasy. And then for each people card, so for each man or woman card, you have, I think it's about 5 different ones. So you have like a black couple, like a black man and black woman. You have a blonde man and blonde woman. You have a brown haired man and woman. You have a ginger hair man or woman. This is the blonde man. And you have an Asian man and woman. This is the ginger woman. So you've got fish, finances, abundance, resources, business, wealth. I like the keywords. I think this is a very good deck for beginners. Because it is a keyword deck, there is no guidebook to it. But as I said before, the keywords to me are very well written. So this is the Lenormand deck. And my final Lenormand deck which I think is beginner friendly, called the Miracle Lenormand Oracle. I love this deck. It's a Lenormand deck of big-eyed dolls, like blithely looking dolls. Just love it. It's got keywords. I mean, some people might find the kind of doll archetype quite distracting. It names the archetype, gives you the number, gives you the playing card association, and gives you keywords. So for example, the dog, it's got here friendship, trust, loyalty. The whip, jack of clubs, error, infidelity, punishment. Child, surprise, trust, inconvenience. Lily, family, peace, harmony. Ship, travel, movement, journey. And bear, strength, courage and energy. So I do tend to pair this with my Beautiful Creatures tarot deck, only because it's got like the same kind of archetypes, and it comes in this beautiful velvet bag. So I will add the decks showcased in the description bar if they're still available, and if you want me to, I will do a part 2 and part 3. The part 2 concentrating on Lenormand decks that have got the same tarot card or, you know, or created by the same author as a tarot card creator, and then the third deck will be the rest of my Lenormand decks. So do let me know if you want me to do the next 2 videos, and I will do it. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye for now.